We're talking about a twist in aging wine.
Okay.
You know, your reds really need to be held for a while. And in most cases, the winery does that on property and, you know, goes there and turns the bottles every so often. Called riddling, I believe, the riddling rack. I hope I have that right. We'll find out.
We'll ask in just a
we
moment.
will ask. Well, there's a winery in Napa. I saw an article in the LA Times that caught my attention last week, and it was about a winery that is aging their bottles underwater. I'm going to have to clarify whether this is under the... I'm not familiar with the Charleston, South Carolina port, so I'm not sure how much that is the Atlantic or if it's its own body of water. But anyway, that's where they're doing it. And there's several reasons why. And we can find out why right now from Gustavo Gonzalez. He's with Mira Napa. There in the beautiful Napa Valley. Gustavo is the winemaker. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hi, thank you very much, and congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you. We're very happy to hit 1 year here on the show and happy to have you as a guest on that program. So you must have people from all over asking you, what? Underwater wine? What's the deal? What is the deal? How'd you come up with this idea?
We do, yeah. This has caused a lot of curiosity, you know, with a lot of people. And the reason we decided to do this is, you know, as a winemaker, you only have so many tools that you share with everybody. You know, everybody kind of does the same thing in a sense. And we've all read the stories of the shipwrecks that had champagne recovered, and the champagne was fantastic. So we thought, you know, why don't we try to age our wine in the sea for a little bit and see what happens, see how it turns out. I mean, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it's a fun little experiment to try anyway.
Now, I know that Charleston is near the coast, and there is a harbor where this wine was placed underwater. Is that considered the Atlantic?
It's part of the harbor, so it is partially considered the Atlantic.
Okay.
So you guys are based out of Napa, California, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're in Napa. There's actually it's a three-man team. Two of us are here in California, and then our third person, our president, is actually in Charleston.
Were they there before you guys started this, or how did you guys end up submerging the wine in the Charleston Harbor?
As opposed to, say, off the coast of San Francisco, right?
Well, we get asked that question, too. Why didn't we do it in Monterey, or why didn't you do it in San Francisco? And we thought, well, you know, Charleston is kind of far from the Napa Valley from California wine, and our president is there, but it does have quite a thriving food and wine scene.
Yeah.
And it was named one of the best travel cities a year or two ago by one of the top publications. So we thought, you know, it might be kind of neat to bring some of the Napa Valley out there, do this experiment in the harbor, and then round up some of the people from these top restaurants later on to help us evaluate the wine and see how it tastes.
So your guys' business must have expanded then since you've been there.
Yeah, quite a bit. We have pretty good business in that area, too. So because one of our partners is there, you know, we tend to do a lot of marketing in that area and try to push our wines there.
Well, there are several aspects to this that I'm curious about. I know that the water off the coast of California doesn't change much. The temperature doesn't change much from summer to winter. It's typically always somewhere in the mid-50s, I believe, range, which is nice and consistent. Seems like a range that wine would like. I want to find out about the water off the coast of Charleston. I think of that water being warmer, you know, because that is the South, and you think of, you know, Florida and those, you know, that whole thing. The water's like bathtub temperature. So when we come back after the commercial break, Gustavo, we want to ask you about the water temperatures, consistency, and also the rocking, swaying motion that you might get underwater and how that might help the wine. We're speaking with Gustavo Gonzalez. He's the winemaker at Mira Napa. He's discussing their new experiment to age wine underwater. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. 9:14 the time. We're back in just a moment. Is the winemaker Gustavo Gonzalez from Mira Napa, where they are trying a new experiment to see what it's like to age wine underwater, specifically on the Atlantic coast, right outside Charleston Harbor there. Gustavo, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
And when we last were speaking to you before the commercial break, I was curious about the water temperature and then the swaying motion. How are those going to play into this aging process?
Well, the swaying motion is the one that has me the most intrigued because it's the one thing that's quite different from what we're doing onshore. The water temperature is pretty similar to what we have in the warehouse, and you were right to say that it's a little bit warmer over there in the water and consistently warmer than it is in the Pacific. And that's why we decided to do this for only 3 months, so we can maintain a similar water temperature to what we have in the warehouse, which is about 59 degrees.
Oh, okay, 59 degrees. But then the water temperature there in the south, along the southern Atlantic seaboard, really starts to warm up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's why we're going to pull this out in May. We're only going to do it for 3 months this first go-around, and the intention is to do it again later after the summer when the water temperature goes down again and we don't have to worry about hurricanes in that part of the world, to do maybe a bigger dip for like 9 months.
So which of your wines have you submerged then?
Right now, we just did our 2009 Cabernet.
And is that one of your most popular wines?
It is, and that's the reason we decided to do the Cabernet. We also produce Pinot, Syrah, Chardonnay, and Sauvignon Blanc, small quantities of each. But we decided to do Cabernet because, one, it's got the most aging potential, and two, it's the one that's the most popular of the red.
That's what I was thinking. Of course, Napa is so well known for its Cabernets. Cabernet, the second most produced grape in California in 2012 behind Chardonnay, but by far the king of the reds. And so that seems like the logical choice to try that one out. So then after the underwater aging, will there be a secondary aging as well?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to pull these at the end of May, and then we'll probably do a round of tasting and analysis right off the bat to see what they're like, immediately after being pulled out of the water. And then again, maybe a month later once they've aged a little bit on shore.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Mira Napa. You clearly have connections to Charleston. The president lives there in the south, but you're based in the Napa Valley. Which portion? You're out of St. Helena?
Yeah, our winery is actually in St. Helena, and we source fruit from diverse top vineyards throughout the valley, throughout the Napa Valley.
Okay, and do you have any estate grapes?
We do not. We just contract out. We source like a Burgundy Negociant from just some of the top growers like Larry Hyde and a family called Schweitzer and Stag's Leap and things like that.
Oh, Stag's Leap, I think I've heard of it. No, that's a big one, and it's becoming more common, isn't it, for wineries to do that sort of thing, to do the sourcing out of the valley?
Yeah, it's much more common. One, you're not tied to any particular piece of land, and maybe you already have a history and you know what the grapes are going to turn out later on. So it makes it a little bit simpler from a wine growing and winemaking point of view.
Gustavo, whose idea was this? Was it yours or was it the president's to dunk the bottles?
Well, it was a collective idea between the three of us. The president first read about it in a magazine, and then we subsequently read it, and we all thought it would be a great idea to try it here. No one had ever done it, so... And there's also a little bit of history in the Charleston Harbor with shipwrecks and whatnot, and that's another reason why we thought we would do it in that part of the world, too.
I'm surprised no one's come up with this idea yet.
If someone wanted to...
I'm surprised, too. I've read, in Europe they've done barrels and even tanks and stuff like that, but no one has really done bottles of wine.
And if someone wanted to purchase one of your submerged bottles, how do they do that? Is there a wait list?
Well, the best way to do it is to go to our website, miranapa.com. And we didn't put that much wine underwater for this first go-around. We only did 4 cases, so there's going to be a very limited amount, I think, that we're going to put out for sale. I mean, the majority of it's going to be for us to try and to test, but we definitely will put some bottles out.
If it does well, do you plan to put more than, I think it says on your website, you put 48. Will you submerge more bottles if this turns out to be a good thing?
Could be your signature.
Yeah, if it turns out to be a positive thing and people get behind it, we can definitely increase. Although there's a limit to I think what we can actually achieve, how many cases we can actually do. So I don't see it being too huge in the future, but we can definitely grow beyond the 4 cases.
So what went into the design for the case in which these bottles are put under the water? Like it looks like from the pictures that we're showing online at eatdrinkexplore.com, this looks like it's specifically designed for this purpose.
Exactly. We had somebody custom make these with the goal of securing the bottles inside the cage and then being able to secure the cages to the bottom of the sea too, so that they wouldn't be shuffling around too much with the tides.
And how much would you hate that if there was drift and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, we know we put the bottles here.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too fun if we went back looking for them and they weren't there. But luckily, we have a GPS device on, and we also have some monitors so we can get a look at the temperature and the other factors while it's aging.
GPS? I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah. Okay. Hello, 2013. Of course, of course, there's going to be GPS. We're speaking with Gustavo Gonzalez. He's the winemaker at Mira Napa there in the St. Helena region, where I have some family. As a matter of fact, yes. And my orthodontist when I was growing up is also my cousin, and so he was located in Napa, and I grew up just 2 counties over in Marin. So.
Has something to do with why you love wine, perhaps.
I think so. Right. So, Gustavo, what is the date that you'll be pulling these out?
The tentative date right now is May 25th.
May 25th, and I guess it depends on weather conditions, whether you can head out into the harbor and pull them up.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Have the divers who put these underwater for you done this before, or how did you guys get in contact with them?
These are people that we know, and we pitched the idea to them because they do other types of dive work, and they agreed to build the cages. They totally bought into the idea.
So the divers built the cages for you as well.
So yeah, we had this special team of people that built them that are professional divers.
What could go wrong? Like before you undertook this project, I imagine you went through a list of downsides. Like what could be the worst possible outcome, or what are some of the things that you might have you biting your nails?
Well, the worst possible outcome could be, like we discussed a minute ago, that they'd be gone when we go back to find them.
Right. Yeah.
But other than that, maybe a cork failure, or even the bottles bursting or something because of the pressure, and then we go back just to find a bunch of broken bottles. I think that would be the worst thing that could happen.
Now, I know that there have been, as you mentioned, shipwrecks where you open up a bottle of champagne and it still tastes really good. What's the oldest that you know of? What's the longest that a bottle's been under the sea, and then whoever found it opened it and the wine was found to be still palatable?
If I remember correctly, there was a shipwreck in the Baltic Sea that had champagne that was over 100 years old.
Oh,
really?
My goodness.
Wow. Certainly doesn't last that long at my house.
Yeah, and we don't intend to leave ours for 100 years either.
No.
I'm going to be around to check it out.
And the Baltic is a colder region, so that would make sense. With the chillier temperatures, it wouldn't age as fast. And I mean, when you're down there under the water, it's a completely anaerobic condition for the most part. And so completely for the most part, how do you like me hedging my bets there? But the anaerobic meaning no oxygen. And so does that mean, I guess, for aging wine, don't you want there to be a little bit of oxygen?
Well, you would want, for example, for Cabernet, you want it to breathe a little bit while it's aging, and that's why you use cork in a lot of ways. It breathes, and it brings in a little bit of air to soften out the tannin. So in this case, yeah, that's right. We're not going to have any air, and we're not going to have any light either. It's totally dark down there. So,
yeah. So there may be
my feeling is that it's probably going to age a little bit slower than it will on shore.
Gustavo Gonzalez, winemaker at Mira Napa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We look forward to the outcome. We'll have you on then.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.